Today on Sports Central, we go over USFL game preview and prediction on the Week 3 matchup between the Tampa Bay Bandits and the Houston Gamblers. Both teams took losses in Week 2 of action. The Gamblers lost to the Stallions in what was a close matchup, 20-33. Not a bad game for the Gamblers. They scored 28 points, and even though it was a close loss, it wasn't a terrible game for them. On the flip side, the Bandits played a horrendous game against the New Orleans Breakers, only scored 3 points. A lot of mistakes, definitely a sloppy game for Tampa Bay. But this team still shows tremendous upside with the amount of talent that this team has. So definitely a crucial match for both these teams coming up here in Week 3. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this match here today, starting out with your team trends. Bandits once again lost to the Breakers 3-34. Definitely just a tough game. And of course, if you look at the Bandits heading into this league, Jordan Ta'amu, the quarterback of this team, was expected to be the best quarterback in the league. If you look at his experience from the XFL, he was one of the best players in the XFL, and he's bounced between NFL teams ever since. But so far, he's been a disappointment in this league. If you want to look at his passing stats from last week, he was 8 for 18, 62 yards, and 1 interception. Those are not good stats. So Ta'amu, he's definitely got to play better if the Bandits want to be a contender in this league. They got the talent to do so for sure. It's just a matter of executing, and this team did not do so last week against the Breakers. They're 1-1 heading into this matchup. The Gamblers lost to the Stallions 20-33. Once again, not a terrible game. There were definitely some mistakes. Offensively, Clayton Thorson threw 3 interceptions, and it's going to be tough to win a game when your quarterback throws 3 interceptions. So obviously it's going to be a challenge for them, but they kept it close. 28 points on the board in a league that's just getting started like this isn't terrible. And they're 1-1 heading into this matchup as well on a 1-game losing streak. Both teams won in Week 1 against their respective opponents. You'll be on Saturday, April 30th in Birmingham, as all the USFL games are. And your kickoff time is 4 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going Bandits here by 1, so the spread is incredibly close, and your over-under is 41.5. If you look at our Week 3 rankings for this league, we got power rankings every single week, and here's what they look like for Week 3. The Bandits are at number 3. They dropped 2 positions after their loss against the Breakers. They were number 1 for weeks 1 and 2. And once again, as I mentioned before, this team, with the talent that they got from the draft, it was pretty clear that it seemed like, at least, this Bandits team would be one of, if not the best in the league. But so far, they've disappointed just a little bit. But they're number 3 this week. And the Gamblers are number 5. They were number 5 heading into Week 2 as well. So they stay in their same position after their loss to the Stallions. So we got a 3 versus 5 matchup. If you're looking at our rankings coming up here on Saturday. Here's your stat comparison. Bandits 10 points a game in their first 2 games of action, 18 points allowed. If you look at this team, they beat the Maulers in Week 1 17-3. That wasn't, it was a win, and they allowed only 3 points to Pittsburgh, but offensively they weren't terribly impressive. And so for this team to only score 3 points against the Breakers, this offense needs to play a lot better if this team wants to be a contender in this league. Pass yards a game, 122. Rush yards a game, 97. And then for yards allowed, 181 passing, 98 for rushing. As for the Gamblers, 22 points a game, 22 points allowed. So they've evened out at 22 points for both getting and allowed. Pass yards a game, 111. Rush yards a game, 118. And for yards allowed, 197 passing, 179 for rushing. So defensively, they've allowed a lot of rush yards, something to mention there. And offensively, they've done better on the ground, rushing the ball versus in passing. And here are your recent matchups, your first 2 weeks of action for both these teams. If you look at their Week 1 matchups, the Bandits beat the Maulers once again 17-3, and the Gamblers beat the Panthers, who are considered the worst team in the league, 17-12. The Panthers and the Maulers are for sure the 2 worst teams in the league. They're the 2 teams that haven't gotten a win yet. And certainly especially the Panthers just have not looked good. Michigan's only scored 18 points combined in their first 2 games, if that gives you any idea. So, certainly this team, or both these teams, have got wins on their record, but they don't have a quality or an impressive win quite yet. Some key points. Bandits team looked flat in Week 2, to say the least, only scoring 3 points and defensively allowed a lot of points. Jordan Ta'amu, he's got to play better. I mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. If you look at his stats from last week, 8 for 18, 62 yards of passing, 1 pick. Those are not stats that you're going to want out of your starting quarterback if you want to win a game. And they had to put in their second quarterback, White, for a little while, and he didn't do too much better. And actually, the leading rush on this team for Week 2 was also Ta'amu, 4 attempts on 45 yards. So He did get some yards of rushing, but he's got to play a lot better if this team wants to be one of the best in the league, which they definitely can be. I mean, this team, there's a reason why this team was widely thought of to be the best team in the league heading into the season, was because of the amount of experience. I mean, defensively, they got some good depth. I mean, and offensively, they got plenty of talent as well. For the Gamblers, this team was actually expected to be one of the worst teams in the league, but turns out they haven't done too bad so far in comparison to those expectations. They played a competitive game against the Stallions. Offensively, overall, looked good, and this team has got tremendous upside as well. I feel like the ceiling for the Gamblers is pretty high. I mean, this team, they get a win here. They're 2-1. I mean, I could see Houston being in the top 4 for sure if they can win this game and maybe potentially keep climbing from there. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Bandits and Gamblers coming up here in week 3 of the USFL. I'm going to be going with the Gamblers here to get the win, 21-17. I'm going against the Bandits in this matchup, mainly because I mean, in week 2, this team just looked terrible, only scored 3 points. I mean, they played the Maulers in week 1, beat them 17-3. So, I mean, their defense came to play at least, but the Maulers are a terrible football team, it looks like so far. And so, I mean, heading into week 3, Tampa Bay, I've lost a little bit of faith in this team, honestly. I feel like, Thomas so far has been disappointing to say the least. He's thrown a lot of interceptions, and he hasn't really looked too good. So I think the Gamblers in this situation, I would say, I like them in this game right now. It's certainly tough to pick, but, if I'm going to go with the team here, it'd probably be Houston. I'm more confident picking Houston right now than Tampa Bay until we see an impressive performance out of the Bandits. I just don't know about them right now. So 55% towards the Gamblers. Over-under is 38.5, which is incredibly low. But I'm going to still take the under for this matchup, mainly because these two teams, offensively, the Gamblers have been decent. So potentially that could take it over. But even, the Bandits only scored 3 points last week. So it's not a guarantee that the Bandits get over 20. So I'm going to take the under for this one, and Houston to cover the 1-point spread, which is currently towards the Bandits. Gamblers 21-17 is my predicted final score. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.